Well, hello there, people from the internet. How you doing? This is the Russian Sniper. We're back on the battlefield here, and it's time to give you my 2 cents about the beta. Now, I've played plenty of beta. I got to about 1,000,000 points. I've got about 30, 40 hours or something like that played in the beta, and I have played Battlefront before this. So I sort of go into this with a little bit of expectations of what it was back in those days, even though sort of graphically and all that sort of stuff, things have changed a lot in 10 years or so. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way, which was the Empire was OP as hell. Yes, it was. The one thing that was missing out of this beta was the Smart Rocket card. The Smart Rocket card will make things a little bit easier for the Rebellion. They do about 2% damage to the AT, but you're still required to work with your team and activate those stations in order for you to take down the shield so you can bomb it to hell. Now, I still don't understand why they've not added this. They've had the alpha and everything like that. Why not add it in? Why leave people with the impression that the Empire is overpowered and this and all that? It still doesn't make sense to me why they haven't added it in. It shouldn't really be that difficult to add in one extra card. But hey, that was it. We know things are going to change, so we're not going to dwell on that too much. There were some other things that I really want to touch on, and I really want to go on with the first. The first things is what I really loved about the game. The sounds of the game, they're absolutely amazing. The pew pew pew, there's every way you turn, there's all sorts of pew pew going on. And it was just absolutely amazing. It really brought me back what it was years and years ago. And it just reminded me how cool Star Wars is. They absolutely nailed it when it comes down to the graphics and the environment and all that sort of stuff. It's just so cool. The music, at that one point when that one spot of music kicks in, and it's just going to make everything so much better. You forget about so many other things that got you killed before, or you might have raged because of something, but sometimes it just works and it's really, really nice. Just being back into this world and being back into the world of Star Wars and just playing and jumping around and doing all that, it was just really cool, and there's no feeling to describe it unless you've played Battlefront a good old 10 years ago and you sort of wanted to get back into it with today's graphics and today's PCs and consoles and all that sort of stuff, just to see how cool it would look after all those years. And it was finally here, and the nostalgia is there, don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved the beta. I thought it was really cool. You get to do some crazy stuff, jump around, 360, no scopes, Call of Duty, Titanfall, and all that sort of stuff. Whatever you wanted to do in this beta, you can almost do it all. Well, we had some limitations. We only had a couple of modes and whatever, but still, there was a lot of fun to be had in there, and I had my fill. Now, on to some of the things that I would love to see getting fixed, and maybe a couple of suggestions. And we'll start with the HUD. You can see your jump pack, your grenade, your shield and your cycle rifle. They are just too big. It's just too much real estate space to take in there. They should definitely make that smaller, and maybe they should lower them down a little bit and just make it a little bit neater. It's just too big, and I suggested making them a little bit smaller and lower them a little bit. The kill feed, as you can see, is on the right side of your screen. I don't understand why that is there. That should just be on your top right of your screen. It shouldn't really be there. So I don't really see that as a huge problem. It's an easy fix for them. The chat in the game, that's going to be a problem because you can't really type while you're in the menus, while you're in anything. You can only type while you're in the game. That makes you vulnerable to people shooting you. You're not moving, you're staying still, and you're easily going to be shot. That's another thing that they really need to address before the game gets released. Now, moving on to heroes. In my 30 or so plus hours playing the beta, I think I only used the heroes about 2 or 3 times. Now, why did I only use them 2 or 3 times? Is because they're guaranteeing you a death. There is no way for you to get out of that without you dying. Now, the heroes were not anything special, were not anything wow or anything like that. Every time you had Darth Vader, he was really slow. The only thing he could really do is sort of jump a little bit and float and get to whatever he was going, but he was really slow. You can still block a few of the shots being fired at you or anything like that, but it was just not special enough. Luke, yes, he was a little bit faster, and maybe he had sort of the better power-ups because he can force push a lot of people and you can sort of murder crowds of people and stuff like that, and maybe he was a little bit faster. But the heroes just need to be special. They need to be faster, they need to be cooler, they need to be meaner. They just need to feel like a hero. It needs to feel something really special. When you see Darth Vader, when you see Luke, or whoever you're going to see, you think, oh shit, I gotta go. There's nothing I can do to him unless there's a bunch of us and we corner him together. it just has to be special, and it just never felt that way. I played him about 3 or 4 times, and I just didn't want to play him again, just because as soon as you go on a hero, a timer will start going down, and you will be stuck at 2% or 2 health or whatever you want to call it, and then somebody would have to kill you, otherwise it wouldn't go down all the way, so you can just resume your normal play with a normal character. Now, classes. Classes are quintessential to Battlefront. You need to bring classes. You can't just have everybody running around with jump jets and the shield and all that sort of stuff. There has to be a sort of penalty. There has to be a sort of balance between things. In the old Battlefronts, we had the classes. You had the Dark Troopers where they had the jump jets. You had the snipers. You had the regular troopers. You had the engineers. You had... You know, there isn't any of that. There isn't nothing for you to fix, so I don't really see the point of having an engineer, to be honest, at this stage. But it might be in different modes, and we don't know yet. But there is a lot of things that they have to look at, and classes just balance the game a lot. You'll have people loving to play as troopers, you'll have people that love to play as snipers. You need to have that. The shield, maybe you can take that down just a little bit because it's a bit too much the way I see it. And a lot of people are going to be using the shield and the jump jets because that's going to be something. The grenade spam is another thing that they really have to look into because there's so much grenade spam going on. It is unreal. The smart rockets, as I mentioned earlier on, if you have everybody start with a smart rocket card, now that's going to create a problem for anybody using an ATST because one rocket will kill the ATST, therefore making the ATSTs pretty useless. The power-up and the spawns are going to be a bit of an issue as well because sometimes the power-ups will spawn behind the enemy lines into the enemy spawn zone, as it were. So if you move into the second zone on this map, then you have to go all the way back into the first zone, pick up some power-ups, and then try and hit the enemy from the back. Or you could just literally camp his spawn zone, wait for him to spawn, and as soon as it's just shoot him in the back. In the older Battlefronts, there was an option for you to choose your spawn, where you wanted to spawn, because that was part of the strategy of the game. If you wanted to cover an objective quicker, you would spawn closer to it, you'd take the CP stations, and you'd go quicker, or whatever it was, and you'd get to whatever you want to go a lot faster than having the game decide for you where you spawn, and then you having to make your way all the way back to that objective that you're protecting or defending. I'd love to see a spawn system where you get to choose your own spawns in the final release of the game. I just think that will bring a bit more depth to the game, a little bit more strategy to the game, and I think that's going to be pretty cool if they make that happen before the game gets released. As always, there's a link in the description to my G2A page if you want to buy the game a little bit more cheaper. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the game, if you loved it, if you hated it, some of the things you want to see make it in. The jets I didn't really touch on, a few other things, but I'm sure some of you guys already have, so I'll see you guys in the next one.